Boss fired a poor mechanic for fixing an old lady's car for free. Days later, everything changed. The garage smelled of oil, sweat, and worn-out dreams. Marcus wiped his grease-streaked hands on his already ruined coveralls, his breath shallow as he stared at the pink slip trembling in his boss's hand. Outside, rain drizzled over the cracked asphalt of the auto shop parking lot, mirroring the tears he refused to shed. "You know the rules, Marcus," Mr. Callahan said coldly, not even looking him in the eye. "No free work. Ever. We're a business, not a charity." "But she couldn't afford it, sir," Marcus pleaded, voice cracking. "Mrs. Delaney, she's 82, lives alone. Her car broke down right outside the shop. She needed it to get to her doctor's appointment, for her cancer treatment." Callahan scoffed. "Not our problem. You cost me $300 in parts and labor. That's coming out of your final check." Marcus swallowed hard. He'd known the risk. But when he'd seen the frail woman standing in the rain, clutching her worn handbag and trembling like a leaf in the wind, something in him broke. He couldn't turn her away. Not when her eyes held that quiet desperation, the kind he'd seen in his own mother's eyes before she passed. So he'd fixed her old Buick himself, replaced the alternator, topped off fluids, even cleaned the windshield, all while whistling softly so she wouldn't feel like a burden. She cried when he told her it was on the house. "God bless you, son," she whispered, squeezing his calloused hand like it was the last lifeline she had. And now, he was out of a job. Rent was due in 5 days, his daughter's school fees were overdue, and all because he chose kindness over profit. 3 days later, Marcus sat on the curb outside his apartment complex, head in his hands. Job applications had gone unanswered. His savings, what little there was, were nearly gone. Rain had returned, soaking his thin jacket, but he barely felt it. Hopelessness had numbed him. Then, a sleek black sedan pulled up. He braced himself. Maybe it was an eviction notice, or worse. But out stepped Mrs. Delaney, and behind her, a man in a tailored suit holding a briefcase. "Marcus!" she called, her voice stronger than he'd remembered. She hurried over, umbrella in hand, and draped it over his shoulders. "Oh, my dear boy, I heard what happened." He looked up, stunned. You shouldn't be out in this weather." "I wouldn't be here if it weren't important," she said firmly. Then she gestured to the man beside her. "This is Mr. Langston. He's my nephew, and the CEO of Langston Automotive Group." Marcus's heart pounded. Langston Automotive, the largest chain of repair shops in the state. Mr. Langston extended a hand. "Mrs. Delaney told me everything. How you fixed her car without expecting anything in return. How you treated her like family, not a customer." I just did what anyone would do." "No, not anyone, but you did. And that kind of integrity, that's rare." Then he handed Marcus a thick envelope. "Inside is a check for $10,000 from my aunt, as thanks, and a job offer. We're opening a new community-focused garage in the next town over. We want you as head mechanic, with full benefits, a living wage, and a policy that allows you to help those in need on the company's dime." Marcus's knees nearly buckled. Tears finally spilled over. I don't know what to say." Mrs. Delaney squeezed his arm. "Say you'll take it, dear, and say you'll let me bring you a pie next Sunday." 1 week later, Marcus stood in front of a gleaming new garage, Delaney & Sons Community Auto Care, named in her honor. The sign bore a simple motto beneath it: "We fix cars and hearts." His old boss, Callahan, had seen the news online. He showed up unannounced one afternoon, face red with shame. "I heard what happened," he muttered. "Look, Marcus, I was wrong. Profit isn't everything. I ran my shop like a machine, not at home, and I lost good people because of it." Marcus looked at the man who once fired him without remorse, but instead of anger, he felt pity. "It's never too late to change, sir," he said quietly. "We're hiring." Callahan blinked, stunned. Then, for the first time in years, he smiled, a real, humble smile. "Maybe Maybe I could learn a thing or two from you." Months passed. The garage thrived, not just financially, but spiritually. Marcus trained young mechanics not just to turn wrenches, but to listen, to care. Every Friday, they offered free oil changes to seniors and single parents. And every Sunday, without fail, Mrs. Delaney brought a pie, apple, cherry, sometimes peach, and sat in the waiting area telling stories to anyone who'd listen. Marcus's daughter started calling the shop Daddy's Kindness Garage, and in a world that often felt cold and transactional, it became a beacon of something deeper: humanity. The day he was fired felt like the end of his story, but in truth, it was the beginning. The moment kindness repaid itself tenfold, not in grand gestures, but in quiet miracles. A second chance, a full pantry, a community rebuilt one act of compassion at a time. And as Marcus watched the sunset paint the garage in gold, he whispered to the sky, "Thanks, Mom. I think I made you proud." Because sometimes the greatest repairs aren't made to engines, but to souls. If you believe in kindness and second chances, please like, share, and subscribe to ACA Storytells for more emotional stories. Your support helps us spread hope to millions. Thanks for watching.